Topo Athletic is committed to lifelong health and better movement. Topo builds running shoes for those who get out there every day regardless of weather, speed, energy, or mood. Their distinctive fit and feel combines instinctive human movement with modern performance and lightweight comfort to help you keep going, keep trying, and keep moving. Discover the Topo difference and step into a run experience unlike any other.
All right.
We got it to work, guys. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I love bringing this one up every single time, but we had a guest who couldn't get on for 15 minutes one time. And honestly, technical difficulties are one of the first traditions of our Fireside Chat. So congratulations on passing the first trial, Simon.
Yeah. I mean, at work, we're kind of joking that after so many years of COVID, like it should be time that we figure out Zoom, but the solution is to do a round of introduction so that everyone says, hi, my name is Simon, and you can check like whose mic is not working. Problem solved.
There we go. Well, Simon, thank you so much for coming on our show. Just like with every other guest that we have on the show, because everybody is so humble about talking about themselves, I give them a hype up intro. So I'm about to give Simon a hype up intro, and here it is. Our next guest is proof that with passion and perseverance, anything is possible. Simon Guérard made an incredible leap into the world of ultra running just a few years ago and has already accomplished what many may think is unfathomable. Since completing his first 50K, Simon has run over 30 races at the 100-mile distance while still working a full-time job. He brings an infectious enthusiasm to the sport and thrives on taking on iconic courses, never shying away from an adventure and fun. Simon's journey showed that it's never too late to pursue your dream. His unfiltered documenting of these brutal races on his YouTube channel, Running with Simon, reveals the realities of ultra endurance pursuits. But it's his mindset that makes his story so inspirational. Please join me in welcoming Simon Guérard. Did I butcher your last name again?
I think it was pretty good. I saw my wife giving some hearts, so I think she approves of how you say the family name.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I tried to do the hard G there, which is funny because I'm usually the one who has his first name butchered. So
yeah, I think I'm used to it by now. But yeah, it's a hard G, so you just have to remember Goggin when you think of me, which I'm sure that's the parallel people always never make, which stay hard G, Guérard.
Don't worry, it happens to Jason too with Bahamundi.
Yeah.
All the time. Well, one of the things before we jump into the questions that we want to ask you is we always start with our icebreaker, and I'm sure you've heard this one 1,000 times before on our channel, but I want to see where you stand with this one. Are you ready for our icebreaker question?
Sure. Is there an option?
No, there are no options.
Okay. Was that the icebreaker though?
No.
Oh.
Nah. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Oh, I'm tolerant, but that's not my favorite, no.
I don't know if that's like a win-win, Jason. That's more of like
Tolerance is just like, yeah, that's fine, but I'm not ordering.
Like I I've been in Italy more than once, and I can tell you that they would kill me if I said yes here. Yeah. So,
Exactly.
I value life too much.
And you don't want to ruin pizza with pineapple anyway. Value the pizza.
Well, it ruins the pineapple too. I love pineapples.
I agree. Yes, I love pineapple too, but putting it, like, my argument always is nobody's ever asked for more acid on their acid. Like, it doesn't make sense. Tomato is acidic. Pineapple's acidic. It's not necessary.
Do you have like a paper that has like 100 rebuttals for pineapple on pizza, Jason? Because I've never heard the acid on acid one before.
I don't need to write it down. It's all up here. I've been doing this for 50 years.
Talking about how New York pizza, the grease just runs down your elbow, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but I love pineapple on my pizza. But now I want to dive into kind of how you started your journey, but also more acid on your acid.
Crank Sports gets it.
So you started running marathons and ultra marathons much later in your life. Ultras you started like about 3 years ago. What inspired you to take up these challenges after so many years without competitive sports? I know you mentioned you were in outdoors a lot, but what inspired you to take on marathons and ultra marathons So
Yeah, and I don't see that I do it competitively. So if we say I've never done competitive sport before, that's true, and I still don't do it. I'll let Courtney and Jim win the race, and I'll just hang out in the back and have fun with everyone. So I don't see it competitive, but of course, it's a very physical and mental challenge to do these races. The appeal has very much come from hiking and just doing more and more, and just slowly adapting to, well, if I want to see more in one day, there's only so many hours of daylight, so I'll just keep going. And there's a few events that were kind of eye-opener. One was I went to Iceland hiking, multi-day hikes, and it was pretty much in the middle of the summer, so like you have 24-hour days over there, or more or less, and I had a blast. So then I realized, hey, like it's like I can move, like I can do these 30 miles, and that just kind of snowballed into running these races. And now like a 100-miler pretty much like a statement or anything. It's just there's too many races that are really cool, and I have a hard time to picking which one I want to do, so I just picked a bunch. I think we're losing him though.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my.
Yeah, I'm the. Thankfully, I'm just a listener, so it's okay if I get lost. Your audio has been good so far, so carry on.
Well.
So I have a question. So you said you're looking forward to, what do I want to do next? But can we take a moment to look backwards at the events that you have done? And is there one or two that you're like, man, that was so amazing, I'd go do it again?
Yeah, pretty much all of them are really, really good, and I would do them again. I try to be positive, and I can say something very nice about pretty much all of my race, but I think some that stick out are Ouray 100 this summer, which was in Colorado in the mountain. That was an absolutely gorgeous course, and coming from a more outdoorsy background, that was really marrying hiking and running. So yeah, that's pretty much up there. We love going back to Leadville every year. Honestly, it's not my favorite race as a race, neither the course or just a race in general, but it's well organized, and we have quite a few friends that we meet every year over there, and that's just really, really fun. There's a really good vibe around that. So, and ultra running is in my heart now that I've done it, much more about the community than the actual like running itself, or jogging, or even walking. Power hiking is how we would say it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, seeing these people in Leadville is absolutely fantastic. Last weekend, actually, we saw most of them. It was in Phoenix, so I guess it's kind of the middle ground, and that made that race really cool. All of them racing. My wife also was racing last weekend. She finished. Very proud of her. And yeah, she's happy. And it's been a little more than a week now, so we're okay. Finally, we can walk around the house and not look weird. We have a roommate living with us. She has a little dog, and when the dog saw coming back from the race, the dog was clearly guys, you okay? I'm like, no, we're okay. We're not, but no, it's okay.
Can we touch base on you for a moment? Because I paced that a few years ago, and it might be one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I only covered, 40 miles of the race. I did Twin Peaks, did that pass, and then I did the last leg to Chief Ouray and back to the gazebo. Is that race just hard for hearts?
I think so. I mean, and when I try to describe, think about what you've ever done, like in terms of physically, like it's not necessarily technical, like class 3 or 4, but it is steep, and it is not a place you can run very often. Like Twin Peaks, you're not gonna run down like that near the waterfall. That's not, you're happy if you don't die, basically. And yeah, you think of the hardest trail you've ever done and just put them back to back to back to back, and it seems that's what they've done. But at the same time, think about some of the prettiest landscape you've ever seen, and that's what it is. So I don't know if their goal was to be hard or really gorgeous and show us the area. And the San Juan, these mountains are absolutely fantastic. And what I like also is that it's 1 week after Hard Rock, and everyone's like, oh, Hard Rock, it's so much elevation gain. And Ouray 100 is like, hold my beer, and like we'll add about like 11,000 feet more, I think, or 9,000 feet more, which, yeah, you feel it, but it's a great challenge.
It really is. And honestly, like, I remember when we got to the top of Twin Peaks and we were in the daylight and the view was amazing. When we got to the top of Chief Ouray, it was at night and it was so cold. And you know how you have the hole punch, right, for your bib? So the athlete I was pacing, Allie, she finished, I think, third female that year. And we're trying to hole punch this thing, but my hands are brittle, they're freezing, and I can't squeeze it. And I'm like, let's just get the fuck out of here. She's like, it has to get a hole punch. I'm like, Allie, you've done 98 miles. They're not going to disqualify you at this point for not having a hole punch. But she was adamant. We stayed up there for like an extra 3 minutes with this stupid hole punch thing to get it done.
I get it. You know, I'm kind of paranoid about these things. Like sometimes I will just, I mean, for me, I will just turn on the GoPro and say, like, guys, clearly I was here. And like, because sometimes, like, not this race, but I race where there's supposed to be a hole punch. And I just don't find it. I know this is the place, but I don't find anything. And I'm like, they're going to disqualify me. I can't have that. So then I film myself going around the pole and like, I have proof right now. But they never look, you know, I think one of the things that is beautiful about the sport, is the community, and almost everything is honor-based. And you can trust each other. I know I'm sure there are people cheating out there, and that's really unfortunate. But for the very vast majority, nobody would think of like not going up there. Like Twin Peaks, for example, it's, you know, you have to do that little scramble at the end, and it's tempting to say, you know, I'm not feeling it right now. But no, everyone will go there, even if there's a thunderstorm. You're gonna go there, and you're just gonna hope that you're not gonna get buzzed, and it's good enough. So
before I turn it over to Owen, if you want to go back to Ouray, there is a backyard ultra type race out there. I don't remember the name, but I did it a couple of years ago, where it is basically from the gazebo out 2.08 miles and back, and it's beautiful, and it's Uber community, and the race directors will actually take your order when you register for like what you want, if you have allergies and stuff like that. I'll email you the name of the race once I figure it out. I don't remember the name of it. But if you want to go back to Ouray without having to go up Twin Peaks, that's a good place to go and be able to hang out.
Yeah, I've never done a backyard ultra. It's on my I should do one someday list.
Yeah.
But I might go back for Ouray itself, actually. Here. No rain. It was, if anything, it was a little too hot. So I feel I didn't have the experience of going up Twin Peaks in a thunderstorm, wondering, you know, what's gonna happen with me. So maybe someday, probably not next year though. But you know, such a fun race.
It is. I'll turn it back over to you, Owen.
Well, you didn't just do one iconic race with the Ouray 100. You did two in like a 2-week span, and I know one of the things we talked about and could dive into is you have a 3 to 4 week rule for 100-mile races. So how did both of those? You did the Badwater 135 and the Ouray 100 in a 2-week span? How did those compare to your expectations, and how were they different from each other, and which one ultimately ended up being your favorite?
Yeah, they're totally different. I cannot think of two races that are more different on every aspect. Obviously, the course itself, like one is on a relatively flat course in the desert on a road. It's super hot, absolutely not technical. You could close your eyes and finish the course. And the other one is the opposite. You have segments that you can't even run downhill. So totally different. Obviously, the landscape, I preferred Ouray. And Badwater is very unique in the sense of you have your dedicated crew, your van that is following you the whole way, and these are your people, which means, yeah, I interacted a little bit with other runner, but mostly I interacted with my crew, with my pacer, and this was my race experience, which made it very unique. I mean, they were really, it was a nice crew. I think it was a perfect crew. You know, I had my wife, obviously, she had to be there. That's why I married her. I knew she would make a good crew and pacer. I was like, all right, I'm putting a ring on that. But then we had Brian and Fanny, who are very experienced ultra runner, but much more experienced than I am. And I had my sister also that was helping. So it was a great experience to have people that I feel so comfortable with supporting me in a race that was pretty challenging. 135 miles is a long way, and 120 degrees is really hot. But ultimately, I don't think I want to do it again, not because it was harder, but just logistically much more complicated. And you don't have the same vibe of meeting new that segment between aid station, and I had a pacer. I had my wife again pacing me. She's laughing right now, pacing me for the last 20 miles at Ouray, which sounds like 20 miles is not that much, but 20 miles at it takes a while. It's like that, especially at the pace I was going back then, and it probably took 10 hours. But otherwise, I was hanging out with people, and that made it absolutely beautiful. And Ouray is a race I absolutely want to do again. In terms of my expectation, yeah, they were pretty much what I expected, honestly. I expected Ouray would be one of the best races I've ever done, and it was exactly that. I highly recommend it to anyone who's not too worried about big ass challenge. I wouldn't do it as a first race. I think that's kind of a graduate course, and graduate also both in terms of ultra running, but also being able to take care of yourself out there, because you have potential situation there that if you're more of a road runner, like, good luck. We actually encountered that was very scary. I think it's the scariest animal encounter I've ever had. We saw on the trail the leg of a deer, but only the leg. So the body was gone. There were clearly bites in there. So the only animal I can think of that did that would be a mountain lion. And based on where we were kind of on a cliff and there's basically no trees, it must have been really close to us and nobody else saw it. So it must have been snacking, and we spooked it, and it was hiding. And when I saw the leg, I filmed my race. I love posting them on YouTube, and I saw the leg. Normally, if I see a bear or anything, I say, hold up, let me get my camera and let me film you. In that case, I was like, we're getting the fuck out. And if I had been by myself, I would have been convinced that was in my head. Like, I was crazy. But my wife saw it. She was totally fresh. And yeah, it was definitely that. So yeah, we were probably within like 10 feet of a mountain lion that was probably hungry. So.
I will say this about Ouray. Force for pacers. Like, you need to make sure that your pacers and your crew understand what it is you're going through and how long it's going to take, so that they're prepared for it. That is not an easy course. I also pace that at Badwater, and it's not a race that I have interest in running myself, but I would absolutely go back out there and pace, because you're right. It's like self-insulated. It's, 4 or 5 of you together the whole time, basically, where there's not much interaction with the other athletes around you, because it gets stretched out so much.
Yeah, same. I think I'd be happy to, especially the people that crew and pace me, I would be happy to go out there. And now it's on record, but they know it already. If they need anyone, I'll definitely go there in a heartbeat. But racing it again, I'm good. I'm good.
One of the things that you just mentioned was your YouTube channel, and I wanted to kind of dive into that. You have a YouTube channel, Running with Simon. One of the first things I wanted to ask you was, did the passion for filmmaking come first, or did the passion for ultra running come first, or were they kind of around the same time?
Ultra running first, but what really came first was, I think, a passion for photography and landscape photography. So I think I have a good eye for image composition, which comes from that. I used to basically carry my DSLR around and just take, I think, really beautiful pictures. Then I started into ultra running, and at first I had a GoPro, and I was like, hey, I'll just bring it around and I'll film myself just to update my wife, basically. Like, after the race, she's not there, but I can send her that. And I was like, oh, I can send that to my family. And filming is fun. Putting a movie together and a story is even more fun, but there's definitely a hurdle to, well, I have no clue how to edit my movies, what kind of software and these sorts of things. And that hurdle took me a while to actually make that step. And it was it was kind of silly. I wanted to do the Leadman one year, and I'm not a mountain biker. They had a video application for some pro mountain biker to help noobs like me. I was like, all right, like, you know what? Instead of just sending like a movie of myself on my cell phone, I'm gonna make something funny. So we had a blast with my wife doing a training montage, inspired from South Park. Clearly, that was a blast. And then I was like, you know, next race, I'm gonna bring my GoPro and I'm gonna put out the movie. And that was Black Canyon 100K 2 years ago. That's the first real ultra running movie I made, and yeah, that was pretty cool. I think part of it was also you take a lot from the running community, and you hope that you bring something in. And sometimes it's just volunteering, it's helping other runner, pacing, crewing, these sorts of things. And I felt that putting these movies out would be a good way to encourage people, inspire people, make them understand. Like, from outside, it would look like you need to be like a pro athlete or something pretty intense to run 100-mile. And step number one is like, well, that's a trick. We don't run 100-mile. We say we run 100-mile, but we run 40 miles and then we walk. And that is okay. There's absolutely no shame. That's not how we say it. And that's cool. You know, it's a secret. I won't tell anyone that we're walking most of the time, like it's between you and me. But it's normal people. Most people that do these events are normal people. And I want to be transparent about that. I want to show people that you shouldn't feel insufficient about yourself if you're tired at 20 miles. You know, I'm tired after 20 miles sometimes. It's sometimes before the race, I'm just a little bitch. I'm like, I'm tired. I don't want to do that. And that's okay. Like, that happens. And hopefully within the race, you'll get in a groove and you'll meet people and it will be fun anyway. But it's normal to have that. And hopefully that will show people, inspire people to try it on their own.
You know, the race where you learn the lesson of walking early, power hiking, we'll call it, is at West States. Like, you can run, like, I don't know, maybe a quarter of a mile, and then you're going up the ski slope right from the very start. So you're literally just power hiking right from the get-go. And that takes away everything else. You're like, okay, we're power hiking up this, 20, 25-minute miles. It takes you an hour and a half to get 3.5 miles-ish up the escarpment. So that's one where you actually learn that lesson really fast.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you can try to be out. Yeah, you'll see. You said Western, yeah. Right? Yeah, I mean, some people will be up ahead running, and I was like, bye. Like, have fun, guys. It's okay. I'm gonna let Jim ahead. I think it was Killian that, like, I love how, like, but Killian is funny. I think he was joking, but his tip for Western was don't bring a headlamp. That will force you to do it. And I don't remember a time, but like a sub 14 or whatever. I was like, that's a great tip for you, Killian, but that's not a great tip for me. I'm gonna bring my headlamp if you don't mind. Yeah, but yeah, some people run, but it's exceptional.
I remember I did Rocky Raccoon. I think it was the first year I did. Ian Sharman was racing it, and he had won it the year or two prior to that. And one person asked him, like, what headlamp do you use? And he said something, and I'm paraphrasing to the extent of, not to be an asshole, but I don't need a headlamp at this event. So, because he would finish it in like 14 hours because it's relatively flat. It's like 6,000 feet of climbing over 100 miles. So he could run the whole thing basically.
Yeah, it's a fast course. Rocky Raccoon is a fast course. Yeah, I did it last year. Not my favorite race, but it was nice to run in that area. I think there's not so much going on there, at least for that I know of, because I'm more in Colorado usually, or Utah, where the mountains are.
Yeah.
So that was cool for me to, being non-American, to go in a new state and run a race there. That was, I have my buckle from Texas, so that's cool.
That's a flat race, but if you want even flatter for like a track meet for 100 miles, there's Brazos Bend, which is down near Houston, and that is super flat. I mean, probably less than 1,000 feet. So if you really want to see if you can run for as long as you can, that'd be the place to do it.
No, I'm good. I did it once. My first 100 was in Cambridge, around the stadium, the Harvard Stadium. So that was extremely flat, and I, thinking back, I'm like, wow, I don't know how I did that. That sounds so boring. But my time was really good. So I have my PR, and I'm not touching that. There's no need to try. I'm not gonna beat that ever.
Oh man, but you went back and did flats this year with Jackpot. I mean, it's funny. It's funny. We were all there. We all crossed paths at Jackpot.
Yeah, but jackpot was harder than I expected. I really struggled with sleepwalking at some point. I was doing pretty good for like 60 mile. I must have been like a 12-minute mile average pace. So whatever amount of time that would be. And the last third took me as much as the first 2/3 of the race. Like I divide my speed by 2, and the wind was intense. It was not, well, it was not that bad, but it was pretty intense for a race that I expected to do a PR. That kind of hit me in the face pretty hard. Yeah.
So one of the other things that I wanted to ask you about your YouTube channel, because it's one of my favorite things about it, is you always incorporate fun references. Like you have like your South Park, Charlie the Unicorn, movie references, and you put like this nature of like, you incorporate so much fun into what you do. And I wanted you to just kind of talk about the importance of like just not taking yourself seriously and just having fun with the sport. And yeah, just talking about that.
Yeah. First of all, I think everyone has their style. You know, if you want to take yourself too seriously, that's okay. That's fine. I don't judge that. But it's okay. I don't remember the exact quote, guys, but it's something like, "You're pretty stupid if you don't find farting funny, because you live your life with as many farts but less joy." And it's kind of the same. There's no magical solution. If you tell yourself, like, you're super serious, like, don't be a little bitch during your 100 mile, you're still gonna suffer. If you're joking around, you're still gonna suffer. So hey, like, let's just laugh a little bit. And I think dark humor sometimes is a good way to push through pain and through things in general. Gratitude is a pretty good one for me, but incorporating these kind of reference and these jokes for me is a way to pass time also, even during the race. I can think like, oh yeah, that's just like South Park, and then like I'm kind of playing the episode in my head. I'm like, you know, I've just ran one more mile. Oh, sorry, I just power hiked one more mile, and like that's great. Like that was a great way to get distracted. The other way is that sometimes it's hard to express in words how you feel, but the movie or a reference has done a great job at that. And I was like, you know, in the middle of the race, I'm not able to be so eloquent about how I feel, but I remember how I feel, and then I'll find a reference that just represents exactly how I'm feeling. I'm putting it. Sometimes it's gonna be weird, sometimes it's gonna be funny, but it's my way to communicate. And yeah, that's why I put them on. And you're right. That's the way for me to show I'm not taking myself too seriously. I know that what I do is not easy, and I definitely do not wanna. It's common for people to say, hey, you make it look easy. I was like, great. I mean, I can tell you it's not easy for me, and it's not going to be easy for you, but yes, you can do it. And that, yeah, I mean, it's hard to express in words that part of it, but humor is a good way to make it accessible, I think.
Is there, I'm sorry, is there a moment that you can recall when you're out on the course and you're having fun with this stuff, despite how hard it is, and another competitor is there with you and is like looking at you like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think usually people are pretty game in the ultra running community, so that's almost never been an issue. But the one that I was like, oh, this is like tough crowd today, was actually, I did 2 Ironman last year. It's a different crowd, and I was not even joking around. It's just I'm a slow, very, very slow swimmer. So I came out of the water barely making the cutoff, which means afterwards I was really catching up to people. And I passed them on the bike, and, you know, I'll turn my head and say, hey, good job, like, you're doing great. And being just an ultra runner, being positive with other people, and really not trying to belittle their effort at all. Really like, hey, good job, like, I mean it. They did not take it like that. It was a tough crowd. And I kind of realized my mistake at some point where I was like, I think they perceived that as me being like, you're so slow. I was like, no, I really mean it. Like, you know, good job. Like, we're actually riding next to each other right now. Like, we're at the exact same pace. Like, why would I make fun of you? We're both like mid to backpacker on this, and let's just smile. But no, they were straight on the goal. The ultra runners, especially a race like last weekend, Javelina 100. I mean, we were not even the silliest people. We were average silly. we wore a costume, but it was nothing outrageous. You know, you couldn't see my butt or anything. It was just normal funny.
Ironman is definitely a different vibe. I've raced it. You know, I've had 8 finish lines at the Ironman distance, and it's a different vibe from the ultra running community for sure. Not better, not worse, but it's a much different vibe, and especially when you're on the bike. Like there is definitely a lot more seriousness when you're on the bike. When you get to the run part, people tend to loosen up because they're like, okay, we're about to make it. You know, we've got this pretty much done. But on the bike there's a very serious appearance to triathletes, to Ironman distance triathletes for sure. 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Whereas ultra running, I've never really seen all the time that, like, some people that you talk to and you realize, well, you know, either they're in the zone, I won't disturb them, or clearly they don't want to talk. And I think that's okay. Like you can communicate it. I think that's to each his own. And I'm sure that I can be annoying to some people, just like some people I'll find annoying. Like, I think that's normal. You just have to be able to detect some social cues a little bit, you know, like I've heard stories. I've heard stories of, you know, someone running with you and you're like, hey, like, this is kind of annoying. And you're like, hey, how do I tell you, like, please, like, it can be tricky sometimes. But most of the time, you know, it happens naturally. You talk for 5 miles and then you say bye, and that's totally cool. So,
exactly.
Yeah. And you'll meet interesting people for sure. If you take the time to talk with people in an ultra marathon, you'll meet pretty amazing people. It's hard to believe sometimes.
100%.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, when you're out there and you're like, as we've talked about in our interview, stripped down to your rawest form, and you are out there just talking to other people who are the same, like, you just hear some amazing stories. I've had some great conversations, especially going through the night when you bundle up together, you like stick together and you help each other out. And there's something special about that, especially in the 100-mile distance.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I think an experience like that it's very stripping. You can't fake it too much at some point. You know, you can't have a facade at work or these sorts of things, but 80 miles in, you don't have the energy to fake it anymore. If you're gonna be yourself, it's that simple. That's one of the reasons that actually makes filming and telling a story so hard for me, is that at some point you have so little energy that picking the camera and saying, hey guys, what's up, I don't have that energy right now. I'm just like basically naked. And I think I discussed it with you. I would much rather come to work naked than like have some of my coworkers see me in my lowest in an ultra marathon. I think that would be much less revealing for me to be naked at work than like seeing through me, basically seeing like who I am and these sorts of things. I don't think I have so much to hide, but yeah, it's a very personal experience. And then when you meet people that are in the same position, that you meet them, like, you don't meet the facade. And at the same time, there's so much camaraderie in these races. I'm not competing, and I don't know if any of you guys are actually competing, but I'll never feel like if I help this guy, he might finish before me, so I should just like change the signs, you know, so that he gets lost. Like that would never occur to me. If I see someone struggling, hey, you know what, I can walk a little bit with you, and you know, you need water, I have some waters, and let's just hang out a little bit. My goal is to finish, and you doing well really does not impact my capability to finish. Of course, it would be different if we're chasing a cutoff, but otherwise, let's finish together. You know, let's do what we can to help each other.
Love it.
Yeah, one of my most memorable finishes was when I teamed up with another runner this year during the Everest Ultra, a 68-year-old runner, and we both basically came arm in arm when we got to the finish line, and we put our foot out together at the finish line, and we finished together. And he sent me an email much later, translated from Japanese, saying that was one of the most memorable moments of his entire life, which is a huge honor for somebody who is 68 years old.
Yeah. That's great. I hope you made sure though that like when you started, you were ahead of him and it was chip time. So like subtly, it's like we together, but actually, after by 2 seconds. The nice gesture, come on, man. But honestly, I've always wondered about that because I've seen people like, but it's chip time. Expected to make them finish the same time, or it's like, oh, too bad, you know, there's actually a difference in chip time. So even though you try to finish together, no thanks.
I will tell you exactly that doesn't happen. So I ran a race in Texas called the Coyote 50K, and after, I think we have to do 6 loops for the 50K, and after like the 3rd loop, there were 2 guys that I caught up to, and they were struggling, I was struggling, and we just ran the last 2 loops together, and we all crossed the finish line together, all 3 of us. When you go back to the results, because it's chip time, one guy finished 2 seconds ahead of the next guy who finished 2 seconds ahead of the next guy who finished 2 seconds ahead of the next guy. I was the 3rd. I felt precious. I could have run faster, but I was like, I'm not leaving these guys behind. We're having such a good time. And I wound up losing, I guess you would say, 2 spots to them. So, yeah, the chip time thing is a real thing. So look at the start, get out there first, and then let everybody pass you.
I rarely start at the front. So I think I'm safe for that, actually.
Yeah, you're right.
I think I don't know if you guys start at the start, but like I think you need to have like huge balls to start there, because for me I was like, this is for pros. Like I'm gonna hang out a little bit and maybe I'll catch up to people, but like I'm not at the start line with the pictures of like these are the 5 runners, especially the more local-ish race. Like you have like 2-3 people that are actually competing, and like, you can say like, oh, like there's Jeff Browning and then there's this guy. Everyone else is just someone having fun. And like, I don't want to be like, oh, that's Jeff Browning, that's Jim Wasley, and I think that's running with Simon. I'm not sure what he's doing there. He finished 20 hours after these 2, but good for him for blocking everyone. It's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, especially when it's like you start at the front of the pack and then it's like a single track conga line or something like that, and everyone's trying to pass you.
I think there's always someone who's like, today I'm gonna be the first for half a mile and then I'm walking.
So I will tell you, when we were training for Cocodona, a buddy of mine, Greg, and I, we got to this race in San Angelo, Texas, and flat and fast, and he's one of those guys who's like, let's go to the front, and I'm like, we don't belong in the front, dude. Like, what are you talking about? So we get to the front and we start hauling ass, and we are running like 7.5-minute miles right out of the gate. I'm like, there's no way we're holding this for a 50K, dude. Like, we need to slow down. After about 5 or 6 miles, we slowed down. We did the first loop, go out on the second loop. He's already dropped behind me, and I come up upon this guy, and there's like, I don't know, 6 miles to go in the race, and I think I'm in 3rd place. So when I catch up to him, he's like, all right, you're now in 2nd place. And I was like, okay. And I'm trying to be sly about this, like power hike up this hill, take it easy so I can reserve my energy so I can take off. Well, all of a sudden he comes out of nowhere and he's like, all right, thanks for pacing me for the last, quarter, half mile. He takes off and he lit almost 2 minutes a mile faster than I did over the last 6 miles to beat me by like 12 minutes. It's like crazy. Some of these dudes are just super fast, and you don't belong at the front of the race when you see those guys.
Yeah. But it is a strategy. Like if you are competitive, that's what you have to do. And the reality is sometimes you'll blow up and sometimes you won't. We definitely have a friend who's like, that's exactly what he does. And I mean, quite frankly, he does blow up a fair amount of time, but sometimes he won't. And then he'll have a crazy good time. And you won't have a crazy good time if you're too conservative about it. For me, I'm like, well, that's fine. Actually, like, I'm joking about the person saying like, I'm going to lead the race for half a mile until the single track, then I'm going to walk. Like that's a hero. That's someone who's saying, I'm going to blow up my leg so that everyone is pacing themselves smartly. They'll have to, after the single track starts, they'll have to go at my slow ass pace for the next 10 miles. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And they're going to be pissed at me, but I'm doing them a favor. So like, thank you. I appreciate.
I wouldn't say I'm competitive with the field, but I am competitive with myself. And so
me too. Yeah.
I race with the mantra, all gas, no brakes, just like your friend. Like, I'm going out and I'm hauling ass. And sometimes my fitness will get me to the finish line, and sometimes it'll get me to mile 30 of a 50-mile race, and I'm walking the rest of the way to power hiking, shall we say, the rest of the way as well. And it happens, but you gotta, sometimes you just risk it and see what the fuck happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and it depends on the goal, I think, and the mindset. I'm competitive with myself, but not too much in race, where I think I come in any event or any race, even any season, and like I have kind of this is my top priority goal, and then second goal. And like last weekend it was, well, finishing is number one and sub 24, then these sorts of goal. And actually having fun is actually pretty high on my list usually, and not getting injured is high. Like it's probably usually not getting serious, finishing, having fun, then a time goal. And the time goal really very quickly kind of gets out of the way, because I know that that's gonna not be fun if I push too hard and then I have to do the walk of shame for like 40 miles. That is not a fun experience. So I'm like, it's okay. But when I'm on the treadmill on a workout, that's actually what I was doing just before now. I'm on the treadmill. I'm like, this is good, and then I'll increase a little bit the pace. Faster. And then I'll go like as fast as I can. This is a crazy fast run. But then the next day, I know I can do that distance. Like I know I can do 4 miles and whatever, like let's call it the 29:30. So now I can't be slower than 29:30. So I'll put the pace to go at 29:25, and then during the race, I'll just increase it. And like it creeps up on me until I get injured in training. So that's why I should never do treadmill. Like that's not good.
Love it. Love it. Well, Simon, thank you so much for being on our Fireside Chat. This has been an amazing conversation. Before we jump into the rapid fire, which is generally food-related questions, I want you to let people know where they can follow your journey.
Sure. You should head to YouTube. That's my main way of communicating these adventures. So Running with Simon on YouTube. I post all of my races there. So about like every 3 weeks, I'll have a new race. And more recently, I've started having some how to ultra run video tips that are geared towards either pretty beginning or decently advanced. So from your first, 50K to all the way to you're running 100 mile, you want to adjust a few things. I think ultra running is something you can always improve. I learn something every time I'm racing, and I have 3,300 miler, and every time there's like something I'll do, I was like, Simon, that was really dumb. You should not do that mistake again. And the reason I started doing them, I think they're not as fun as telling a story, but I think they're more helpful. And there's so many bad tips out there from people that really don't know what they're doing. So I felt, let's try to set the record straight a little bit, and hopefully that can help people. So Running with Simon. You can also find me on Instagram. I guess the Instagram is linked to that. That's not necessarily my main way of communicating, but I do post some memes. So if you're someone who has a good sense of humor, you should definitely follow that page. I think I'm funny. Now, I don't know if I'm actually funny, but I think I'm funny, which is step number one.
My first time meeting you, I think you're kind of funny. So
kind of funny. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Vote of confidence for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. I have to add to that vote of confidence. Well, Jason, I'm going to let you take over the rapid fire now. Go for it.
I love food, Simon. So our rapid fire is basically 100% all food related. So you're an ultra runner. You've been at many aid stations. When you get there, are you an original Oreo guy, or are you a double stuff Oreo guy?
Stuff.
Oh, come on. When it comes to candy licorice, are you a fan of licorice, red or black?
Salty black licorice is pretty good, and that's a sweet thing. So yeah, black licorice is okay.
Do you think candy corn is a real candy, or is it just earwax covered in sugar?
I think it's a real candy, but it tastes like shit. So I don't know where that stands in that multiple choice.
Are Peeps a real candy, or is it just marshmallow covered in gold glitter?
I actually don't know this one. So
Easter candy in the U.S. It's like marshmallow. It's terrible. Don't worry about it. Keep it.
I think you have a bias, but thanks.
Off you are. When it comes to peanut butter and nut butter, if you have allergies, crunchy or creamy?
Creamy.
when you're making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, do you put the jelly and the peanut butter on one slice of bread and then put the other slice on top, or do you put it on separate slices of bread and then smash them together?
Separate. And I don't know what kind of psychopath would do it like that, but anyway.
Do you know what goobers is?
No.
So goobers is a food product that's made here in the States that is a jar of peanut butter and jelly in the same jar. So you could just take a knife and scoop it out and put it on a piece of bread if you want to go that route.
I'm good. I think we're trying to solve inexistent problem. Yeah. That's okay.
Very much so. When you cut your peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you cut it so that you make 2 rectangles, 2 triangles, 4 squares, or 4 triangles.
If it would be a peanut butter okay, that's where I'm a psychopath. If it's a peanut butter and a jelly sandwich, it would be 2 rectangle. But I think for meat sandwich, 2 big triangle would be the best.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Is red velvet cake a real flavor, or is it just chocolate cake dressed to go to a ball?
Guys, you have to have more international. I don't know that one.
Red velvet cake is basically red chocolate cake with red food dye and like white buttercream frosting. So
that sounds great.
No, it's not good at all.
Yeah.
We're talking international foods then. I mean, poutine, I have to ask you about that. Have you found good poutine here in the States?
No, absolutely not. That's a big disappointment. It's such a simple meal, only 3 ingredients, but it's hard to find all 3 of them, unfortunately.
As a French Canadian, so then are you looking for like croissants and baguettes here in the States, and have you been able to find any of that?
Yeah, there were some good spots in Cambridge that now I can't remember anymore, sadly, the name. But yeah, there were some pretty good spots. Yeah, some small bakeries on Massave. But yeah, it's funny. I absolutely don't remember the name, and it's only been a couple of years.
So if you're, we'll go back to candy for a moment. Your favorite candy is?
Sour Skittles.
Sour Skittles. That's a different play. What about ice cream? Is there a particular ice cream flavor you like?
I think some of the Ben and Jerry's ones. Can't remember all the name, but it has to have chocolate.
It has to have.
Yeah, I don't know why they do flavor without chocolate. That's kind of silly if you ask me, but yeah.
What about cake? Do you like cake or pie? Or which do you prefer, really?
I think I'm more of a pie person. I do like apple pies.
And in terms of your wife,
that's my wife. She knows.
Are they all sour Skittles?
No. I mean, you have to have variety, of course. But there are sour Skittles there. Although maybe the bag is empty by now. You should check that out, actually.
All right, last question for you. If your fresh tray of brownies just comes out of the oven, are you looking for an edge piece or a center cut piece from the brownie tray?
The edge? So people would start from the middle? Do you do that?
Some people. No, I don't. I want the edge.
I mean, I would start by the corner probably, honestly, just for practical reason. But yes, I like also the contrast of like it's crispy and then it's a little bit more melty or smooth in the middle.
Exactly. Well, Simon, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. We look forward to watching the next movie that comes out on your YouTube channel and just, laughing with you because you do have a great sense of humor. You are funny.
Thank you. I appreciate, and please tell my wife. No, she knows. It was in an interview, and I said, I think I'm funny, and I looked at her, and she hesitated, and I was like, that's hurting so much right now. Not cool, but yeah, she thinks I'm funny, so it's good. We're good.
Have a great night.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.